Hello, I'm Lee Watts with Tandem Light Press, and we are here today with another one of our wonderful authors, Mrs. Sophia Casey. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. So grateful to be here, Lee. I love talking to you. It's easy to talk to you. So this was, I
Thank
was
you,
a
thank
complete
you.
yes.
Thank you. And we're going to talk about easy in a few minutes as well, because that is one of
Mhm.
kind of your brands and just a value, really, from what I pick up of your company and just who you are. So we're going to talk about that. But want to just dive in first to, I'm just going to touch on your book for a second, just so they understand why I'm interviewing you. You just published actually your second book, but this particular book that we're talking about is Fierce Vulnerability, which, hello, the name is amazing, right? Doesn't everybody want to grab a copy? Fierce Vulnerability. So we're going to talk about that. But even before we get there, because I want to talk a little bit about just who you are and what even made you want to write this book. So tell me a little bit about you as a coach, why that is the essence of who you are, why you believe in coaching, and what are some of the values you have with your business, your brand, and why that just takes up so much space in your life.
I tell you, I've been a coach for a very long time, and it's such a blessing that I also get to train coaches and mentor coaches because I'm so committed to this work. So I started as a coach many moons ago. I don't even know. I've lost count how many years it's been since I've been in this industry. And I came to the coaching industry because I was a trainer, and it just felt like a natural progression. I was doing a lot of corporate training as a head of HR and head of training. And what I found is that employees, managers, executives were constantly asking for more than just training. They were stuck around certain parts of their professional and their personal lives. So went to school, got certified, and then got
Okay.
credentialed. And I love this work so much. And a big part of my branding is ease and flow, because
Yes.
what I learned is that so many people relate it to work, their professional work, and also their personal lives and circumstances in their lives is like hard. And you have to, I hate the word grinding. Like you gotta
Mm,
grind.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess, when I became a coach, I'm like, I don't want to have to grind. Like, is there another word I could use? So, hustle I'm okay with, but I just didn't want to relate to work as like it had to be hard and grinding. So thus was birth, ease and flow, which is a big part of my brand.
Right. Wonderful. And you definitely personify that. So if you're not following Sophia Casey on social media, you must definitely do that. Find her because when I come across you on social media, I feel the ease and flow, just a happiness and easiness about life. And again, it's a mindset that life doesn't have to be difficult. And we have choices, right? And sometimes you have to choose to think and feel the way you want to choose, think and feel. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much for just your work in that and just being such a great example. So let's talk about really briefly your first book, because you actually have a workbook, right? Or journal.
It's a journal. It's a journal. And of course, what I named it, the Ease and Flow Journal. And it's a 31-day journal. And I say it's a journal to support people around getting clear, connected, and courageous about their lives. And it was birthed out of a lot of trauma that my family was going through. Unfortunately, my husband suffered from some very serious medical setbacks. And so as I was supporting him in the hospital, I kept saying, I need something. I need something that's
Mhm.
where I could just pour out my heart and my soul and my thoughts and my stressors and all of the
Right.
things that I was worried about. But every single journal I found just had blank pages. And I'm like, no, I need you to ask me some questions.
Prompt
I need
me.
some
Pull it out of
prompt
me.
me. I need some journal prompts. And so I used my coaching experience and the work of being a coach, and my experience of asking open-ended, powerful questions to help me create that Ease and Flow journal.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that was great. And then you wowed us again with fierce vulnerability. And I am not a big, even though it's not completely a fiction book, because these are people that you kind of know, right?
Kinda, sorta. I said I did change names to protect the guilty. And it's each character, the four women in this book, and each character I say is a combination of all the women that I know,
Yes.
and all the women who are in my life, and all the women that I want to be in my life. So it's a mixing of a whole bunch of avatars.
Yes. 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 So tell me a little bit about why you decided to write this book.
Well, you know what? I really believe, Lee, that I was told to write this book.
Mm,
I'm a very spiritual person. I'm very spiritually led. And I really felt like this book was like birthed in me. It was like, you know, hey, you have to tell this story. Also, a big part of it is just, I have some really, really good girlfriends, and have had some very close girlfriends for a long time, and just being with them and spending time with them, one of the common themes that I kept noticing is that we as Black women, we're like really, really strong and really fierce. That's the
right.
fierce part of the title. And at the same time, we were not willing to be vulnerable, or as vulnerable as I would like us to be, as friends. And we've had a lot of conversations about it too, and what stops us from being vulnerable. So that's really where this was birthed out of, all of those stories and those conversations, and just my hope and desires for us as Black women.
Yes. 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 I love that. And then because I've read the book and I'm trying to think if it's on my nightstand or on my bookshelf right now.
Thank you.
I think it's on my nightstand. But so tell me a little bit about your favorite character.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's a hard one, Lee. Okay, so there's Ava, Simone, Vanessa, and Jean Marie. And I honestly, I feel like my favorite changes every time I read the book. And yes, I read my own book over and over and over again, but it changes. And so in the beginning, it was Ava. Ava's what people would call the ball buster of the group, and she's running for political office. And so, as Vice President Kamala Harris was running for office, Ava became my favorite again and again and again. But honestly, I feel like every single one of these characters brings something to my life that's very valuable. Simone's kind of the new friend in the group, and the other friends are kind of like have one eyebrow raised, like, do we really let you in the group? And she's one of the younger ones in the group. And so I love her essence, her youthfulness. And then there is Vanessa. Vanessa's the Southern Belle.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. She's a Southern Belle. So I relate to her too, because a lot of my family members are from the South, and we have very Southern upbringing. And so I certainly relate to her. And then Jean Marie, if I really had to have a favorite, though, it really would be her, because she is the healer of the group
Yes.
and does a lot of healing work, which is very akin to the work we do as coaches.
Right, right, right. So let's talk about the cover. Now, I know a little bit about the backstory of the cover. Very
Yes.
powerful. Tell me a little about how that all developed and who your illustrator is.
I absolutely love this cover, and I'm not just saying it's because it's my book. So, a very good friend of mine, Deidre Harris Kelly, is an artist, and has been a very prominent artist in the New York area for quite some time. And she's a very good friend of mine. And I've always been just mesmerized by her art. She does a lot of abstract art. And so I was actually on her website one day, and I'm just staring and gawking at her art. And this particular piece, like, literally jumped out at me. And this was years ago, actually, jumped out at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, how can I get it? I want it, I want it, I want it. So long story short, I find out that her cousin actually has it at her house. So I couldn't actually
Oh,
get the actual piece. I couldn't get the actual piece, but I said, well, I have to have it. So didn't do anything about it. And then when this book came back, or was rebirthed, I said, oh my gosh, what could I actually have as the cover? I had actually had another cover designed, but it just didn't sit with me like, this is the
mhm.
one. And then I saw the painting again. I just happened to be on social media one day, and the painting, she had shared about the painting again. I was like, oh, that is it. So I called her and begged her. I begged her and begged her. And what I love about the cover is that a lot of people think those the black things in her hair are actually bantu knots, and they're actually birds. They're actually black birds. And so I just love the symbolism.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to have this.
And
Yeah.
I do believe there's some product, right? Swag, maybe.
Yes, I got some swag coming as a great suggestion from a wonderful chief marketing officer that I happen to know and love. So yes, I've just recently had some t-shirts made, and so that'll be available soon. And one of my favorite things, let's see if I can grab it. One of my favorite things. I love this. I love this. I love this mug. I love this mug. So I did have this mug made, and on the back it says, "Bringing my coffee, tea, and fierce vulnerability."
Ooh, now you didn't show me that side of the mug.
I know. It is a great reminder to me. I keep it here on my desk, and sometimes when I'm getting frustrated, dealing with all the things that we have to deal with as women,
Yeah.
sometimes I'll just look over at that and see that, like, Sophia, all is well. You have your fierce vulnerability. Bring that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. I mean, it's just I just can't get over the title of the book because it so encompasses, again, we as first women, but black women, because we can be so fierce, but underneath all of that we're so vulnerable and tender. And I was listening actually to a race relations interview yesterday between a black woman and a white woman, and her question, she asked the question as politically correct and sincerely as she possibly could, but why are black women so angry? I think that's how she put it, or just hard, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I was just like, oh my gosh. And I understood honestly where she was coming from. But there's just, with all our fierceness and our whatever, there's just so many soft spots underneath us. And I think with your book and just the layers of the characters, there's a story behind everyone, right? And just
Absolutely.
what gets us to where we are. So I think I like, even though I'm not a huge fiction reader, I like that because, again, you were able to see yourself and your friends or people you may have even written off
Yes.
and understood, you know what? I don't know the whole story of what she went through. So,
Yes. And as you say, the sun is out, so that's a sign. That's a positive sign.
yes, I
This
saw
is the
that come in.
this is the conversation that we need to be having right now.
Right.
But you mentioned angry black woman, and that's the fierceness. That's part of the fierceness that I was tapping into with this title. And I was just moved by you sharing that, because a lot of times that is how people see us. And the thing is, what people don't realize a lot of times, or people don't really admit, there is a story behind that stereotype.
Yeah.
There's a story behind the
Yes.
stereotype. And I say it is a stereotype, because I say it's not true that, we as black women are always angry, but there's a story that led to that stereotype. And my hope and desire for us is to certainly keep that. Like, I say fierceness is in our DNA as black women,
Right.
but to
Right.
keep that, but also to ask ourselves, are we willing to let our guard down and bring forth more of that softness that you talked about? And most importantly, are we willing to partner with our sister friends and other women and share those type of stories, the stories that we don't always share out there in the public, as a way to support each other? And,
Yeah.
and I feel like if we are willing to do that and practice more vulnerability, that increases our fierceness. Like, to me, that is true fierceness, is
Yeah.
I am willing to bring both.
Right. So I'm going to step into it. This was not planned, this question, but this conversation is so fascinating. Again, just the fierce vulnerability,
Mhm.
feminine energy, and just how it plays into our male relationships,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And the fierce vulnerability, are men intimidated by it? Do we know how to control it? Should we control it? Or are we like, yeah, I am who I am, it is what it is.
Well,
Can
I'm
you
gonna vote
handle
for
it?
the last one. I am who I am, and it is what it is. And at the same time, I'm always in conversations around relationships, and happy to say I have some marriages under my belt. My girlfriends call me the matchmaker, but so I love love. I love love. I love relationships and all of that. And at the same time, it's like I don't have to turn off who I am in order to be in a good, healthy relationship with a man.
Right.
And I'm also willing to take a look from over here and see, am I practicing fierce vulnerability? And I say that fierce vulnerability says that I am willing to have the real conversations with this man. I'm willing to share with him, what lights me up, willing to share with him my wants and my desires,
Mhm.
and being clear with him also that I'm a stand to have what it is that I want and I
Mhm.
desire too.
Right.
So I love the male characters in this book are fascinating. And when I wrote the book, I hadn't really thought a lot about the men. I mean, because of the stories about these four women, but the men hold their own too.
Right.
And I think that's part of the reason why Jean Marie is one of my favorites, is because you really get a glimpse of her journey with practicing and bringing more vulnerability forth in her relationship with her man. and
Mhm.
and you see his struggle of like, why won't you bring more vulnerability, why won't you let me in? And that's a lot of times what I'll say, what I and my sister girls hear from our men. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, let me in, let me in, let me in. I know you can do it by yourself, but are you willing to be in partnership? So,
Yeah. Yeah. So many great things. I love it. I love
oh,
it. I love it.
I could talk about that forever. Yes, yes.
So thank you so much for taking a few minutes out. We are going to put the link to purchase the book in the comment section. But I do want them to follow you and keep up with you on social media because you just have so much to offer beyond this book. So tell them again where they can find you.
Oh, it's super easy. So I'm Sophia Casey everywhere, and
Mhm.
usually Coach Sophia Casey everywhere. Absolutely. And then my website is sophiacasey.net.
All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And I do think, I mean, oh, well, let's just talk real quick because I was about to say I still want to keep talking about this fierce vulnerability in women, but you have been doing virtual summits and
Oh,
conversations. Talk
yes.
about that.
It has been wonderful. So, my first book, the Ease and Flow Journal, did so well, but I had it in my head that the reason it did so well is because I was able to go in bookstores and do book signings. And so I was like, well, how am I going to do that with all that we're going through as a planet right now? And then the gift was given to me that, hey, have a virtual book tour. And I'm like, oh, well, what could that look like? And so I got together with some great girlfriends, and we just came up with the idea to have a virtual book tour. And so every month I hold a panel discussion on a specific topic very relevant to women as a whole, but also really specifically to Black women. And the conversations have been incredible, incredible, incredible. And a good publishing friend of mine said, Sophia, I think you kind of set the bar for how you do virtual book tours, because and it's been so easy because women naturally are just emerging saying, hey, I want to be a part of the panel, or at least I want to be a part of the conversation. So we've had all types of topics, from sisterhood to one that's coming up around Black women and white women and allyship, and what does that actually mean. And then in the future I'm going to allow the men to take over
Mhm.
my stage and have them have a conversation around what does fierce vulnerability mean to men.
Yeah.
That's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
That's awesome. I love that. Yes. So thank you so much.
You're
So you
welcome.
guys can
Thank
catch
you.
her and catch the book and all kinds of information about her and fierce vulnerability. And okay, I know I need to stop talking, but one other thing you said as people are thinking about buying the book and thinking about fierce vulnerability, is when
Yes.
you were talking about relationships and having the courage to tell men, who I am, what I want. Fierce vulnerability is also knowing those answers, right?
Yes.
Because so
I
many women don't
know.
know it. They don't know. Like if you ask them, who are you? What do you want? They stumble all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so fierce vulnerability, we got to be it. That's the goal, right? So
Absolutely.
get a t-shirt.
Yeah, it is the goal, and I have it that it's a fluid goal. It's not like I'm trying to win the fierce vulnerability race and I get to a point. It's every day asking myself,
Yeah,
am I willing to practice fierce vulnerability?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lee. This is wonderful. I love talking to you, as I said.
Talk to
Thank
you
you.
too. So we'll hear more from her. Thank you guys for joining.